All right, so you're reading Lawnfall and you're going to read Gawain, and in both of those, what becomes very important to consider is the new, at this time, right, in the 12th century, the new convention of courtly love. Courtly love is basically a literary construction. It's possible that knights sometimes attempted to apply courtly love to their actual lives. Um, that's not entirely clear. But what we know for sure is that it's a popular literary construction, so that you have a lot of stories in which you have courtly romance and what is known as chivalry or the chivalric code. Now, these are not exactly the same thing. They're sort of two separate codes. Courtly romance, more or less, has to do with how the knight or other noble person um, behaves towards a lady, and she must be a lady of standing, usually higher standing than the knight himself. Uh, it's never to a peasant or a commoner. Peasants and commoners are left out of all of this, right? This is all about the court. That's why it's courtly romance. And so you have courtly romance or courtly love, which is really uh, the sort of way a man should behave towards a woman. The knight should behave towards his lady. Whereas chivalry is more about the behavior of the knight to his lord. In general, when we look at the chivalric code, or we talk about these codes with knights, knights are servants of three entities, and always, according to the codes anyway, in the following order. First, the knight serves God. Right, and this should be no surprise, as the church is the highest um, official law of the land, right? And so the knight serves the Pope, the knight serves God. So that's number one. Below God, then, is the king. So the military leader and often the financial benefactor for the knight is the king. And then the knight serves his lady. Okay, so there are those sort of three tiers. So that's important because if there's a conflict between the knight's service to the lady and the knight's service to the king, he should defer to the king. If there's a conflict between the knight's service to the king and the knight's service to God, he should defer to God. We'll watch for that in Lawnfall. We'll watch for that in Gawain and the Green Knight. But to return to courtly romance, this is very interesting, courtly love. Students often struggle with this because we all have different ideas of what love is. But central to most of our contemporary understandings of love is faithfulness and honesty and transparency. And all of that's out the window with courtly love. Courtly love is based on kind of exactly the opposite. So there was an official sort of set of rules written for courtly love, but we're not going to look at all of those. There are 31 official rules, and a lot of them are sort of redundant, and they have to do with things like the way your heart feels like it's going to break when you're without your lady and you can't breathe, and et cetera, et cetera. But we can think of it this way. It breaks down essentially into stages that when you are engaged in courtly love, you go through sort of stages of misery. That's the best way to put it. So courtly love begins with an attraction between the man and the woman, and it's directed from the man to the woman. Right? Usually he sees her from afar, and this is very important, right? So he observes her somehow, and he is smitten with her beauty, right? And she's all he can think about.